What was a red flag that made you stop talking to a person immediately? I matched with Daniel on a dating app 3 months after my divorce. His profile seemed perfect. Teacher at a local elementary school, volunteered at animal shelters on weekends, had this warm smile in every photo. We texted for 2 weeks before meeting up. Our first date was at this cozy bookstore cafe downtown. He brought me a small succulent plant because I'd mentioned loving plants in our messages. We talked for 3 hours about everything: books, travel dreams, our favorite hiking trails. He even teared up talking about his students and how proud he was when they finally understood fractions. The second date was even better. We went to a food truck festival and he insisted on trying the spiciest wings they had, then drank 3 milkshakes trying to cool his mouth while I laughed until my stomach hurt. When he dropped me off, he asked if he could kiss me goodnight. So respectful. So different from my ex, who never asked permission for anything. By our 4th date, I was starting to imagine introducing him to my daughter. That's how comfortable he made me feel. We were walking through the park after dinner when we passed this homeless man sitting on a bench. The man had a cardboard sign that said, "Anything helps, God bless." I reached into my purse for some change, but Daniel grabbed my wrist. Not hard, but firm. "Don't encourage them," he said. His voice was different, cold. "It's just a couple dollars," I said, confused. Daniel's whole face changed. "They're all scammers. Probably makes more than I do teaching. Look at his shoes. Those are practically new." The homeless man wasn't even looking at us. He was reading a worn paperback book, minding his own business. Even if he is scamming, which I doubt, so what? I pulled my hand free. "It's my money." That's when Daniel said it. The words that changed everything. "You know what your problem is? You're too soft, just like with your divorce. You let people walk all over you. If that guy wanted money, he should get a real job instead of sitting there reading like he's on vacation. Natural selection, you know? The weak ones are supposed to struggle." My whole body went cold. This sweet teacher who cried about his students was calling a homeless person weak. Natural selection? About human beings? "Sometimes bad things happen to good people," I said quietly. Daniel rolled his eyes. "Bad things happen to people who make bad choices. I bet if we checked, he's probably an addict or has a criminal record. They always do. That's why I carry pepper spray. Never know when one of them might get aggressive." He pulled out a can of pepper spray and actually waved it toward the man on the bench. The man looked up, saw the pepper spray, and quickly gathered his things to leave. The fear in his eyes made me sick. "Did you just threaten that man?" My voice was shaking. "I'm protecting us. You should be grateful." Daniel pocketed the pepper spray. "Honestly, the city should do sweeps more often. Clean up the streets. I don't want my students seeing people like that. People like that. Like they weren't human." I took 3 steps back. "I need to go." "What? Why?" He looked genuinely confused. "Because I'm being realistic about the homeless problem? Because you just showed me exactly who you are." I turned and walked toward the main street where I could catch an Uber. Daniel followed me for a bit, saying I was overreacting, that he was just being honest, that I'd understand when I wasn't so emotional. I blocked his number before the Uber even arrived. When I got home, I looked up his school online. Right there on the homepage was his teacher photo with a quote: "Every child deserves compassion and understanding." Every child, apparently, but not every person. He sent emails for weeks, first apologizing, then angry that I was ghosting him over nothing, then back to apologizing. I never responded. 2 months later, I saw on the news that he'd been suspended for refusing to let a student eat lunch in his classroom. The kid's family couldn't afford the lunch fees. The reporter interviewed the crying student who said Mr. Daniel told him, "Maybe your parents should work harder." My hands shook watching that news report. That could have been my daughter in his class. I'd almost let him into our lives because he brought me a plant and made me laugh. Now when I date, I pay attention to how they treat people who can't do anything for them. The waiter who gets the order wrong. The elderly person walking slowly in the crosswalk. The homeless man on the bench. Evil doesn't always look evil. Sometimes it brings you succulents and has a warm smile, but it always shows itself eventually. I kept that little plant he gave me. It sits on my kitchen windowsill as a reminder. Beautiful things can come from poisonous people. Doesn't mean you need to keep the person, just the lesson.